Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. Today we are taking a look at a very, very tragic case and a very, very shady investigation and possible cover-up here in the death of Jody LeCornu, which occurred in Baltimore, March 2nd, 1996. And this is a case I've been meaning to get to for a while because there's quite a few variables here that seemingly, again, this is a case that should be able to be solved, and yet it is not solved. So we will, of course, be going over it in typical Mindshock fashion. If you enjoyed the podcast, want to support the podcast, want to help us get out more episodes bringing awareness to true crime cases, unsolved cold cases, missing persons, wrongful convictions, and more, feel free to donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, make sure you allow your device to have those notifications come through. You could also support the channel by becoming a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Get access to members-only streams and chats. Like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So, first of all, I do want to say that Jenny Carreri, who is the twin sister of Jody LeCornu, I don't know her personally, but if anybody follows her on Twitter, Twitter is notoriously a cesspool for individuals, but Jenny Carreri is like a shining light in the Twitter universe. She just seems like a very good-hearted and genuine individual, something you don't see every day on Twitter. Again, I don't know her personally, but that's just what it seems like just following her Twitter and just the way that she talks about the case and everything. It's just, it's heartbreaking enough, but the fact that she seems to be just a very genuine, good-hearted individual just makes it that much more heartbreaking. And then, of course, the fact that this was her twin sister. It's just absolutely heart-wrenching. But let's bring more awareness to this case. Let's dissect this in typical Mindshock fashion to see if a resolution can be had or what variables or factors are necessary to identify in order to move the case forward. I'm going to read a couple different articles here first just to get a semblance of what's been put out in the mainstream. Kim Cornett and Michelle Cho had an article here on NBCnews.com, March 26, 2019. The billboard above Baltimore's Pulaski Highway is hard to miss. Inspired by the movie Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Jenny Carreri posted 3 billboards around the city to mark the 23rd anniversary this month of her twin sister's murder. The 23rd anniversary, of course, back in 2019. Jody LeCornu was 23 when she was killed in a parking lot in Baltimore, March 2nd, 96. The investigation is ongoing, and the killer is yet to be identified. I saw the movie Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and I just thought it was brilliant, and I am constantly trying to figure out ways to share her story and find her killer. Carreri, 46 now, of Easton, Maryland, told NBC's Lester Holt. Police confirm that after an evening at a local bar, LeCornu met a male suspect in the early morning hours in what is now known as the Drumcastle Government Center parking lot. At the time, it was a shopping center. The whole night was very out of character for her, says her twin, who grew up with Jody LeCornu in Annapolis, Maryland. She wouldn't have driven in the snow. She was terrified of everything. She was actually afraid to live in Baltimore. She would say she was afraid she was going to get shot. Wow. Corporal Sean Vincent, spokesman for the Baltimore County Police Department, tells NBC News there was some kind of exchange between the suspect and Jody in the parking lot to where she started to drive off. At that point, a suspect pulled out a handgun, shot one time at her direction. Gravely wounded, LeCornu managed to drive across the parking lot into another shopping center across the street in Baltimore County, where she circled the parking lot before dying. Vincent tells NBC News the suspect was a black male, stocky build, wearing a green Army fatigue-style jacket, driving a white BMW. Police confirm that, according to witnesses, the suspect followed her, drove into the shopping center, removed something from the car, and then later drove away toward the Baltimore City area. Authorities have not been able to determine what was taken from that car. The key to this whole thing is what he wanted in that car. Cheryl McCullum, a crime scene investigator, says, when he gets to her in her car where she is clearly dying, he then reaches in to get whatever that is so important before he flees. McCullum is also the director of the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, a nonprofit organization that assists families and law enforcement with cold cases like LeCornu's. You've got to talk to those witnesses. Maybe they told you everything, maybe they didn't. Maybe you haven't talked to everybody that knew something. That's why her billboard is so critical of this whole thing. I guarantee you people talked. Whoever was involved with this told somebody. McCullum says. The Baltimore County Police Department tells NBC News they have received phone calls but no substantial leads since the billboards have been up. Vincent said the county police have never seen a family put up billboards in a case before. The 3 billboards put up by Carreri are in stark red, black, and white and feature an image of her sister under the words, "Find my killer." They offer a $100,000 reward. Carreri says she is not giving up and already planning her next billboard. I just feel part of me was ripped away, and the other part of me is going to find out what happened. After 1 billboard last fall and now 3 more, Carreri is hoping this apparent cold case will be hot once again. I always said we were one. It's almost like I have her strength now, you know? She was always the strong one. Let's go through another article here by A.W. Naves, September 6, 2021, Medium.com. Where is the justice for Jody LeCornu? 25 years on, and her twin sister continues to search for her killer. More than 25 years have passed since Jody LeCornu was shot and killed inside her car at York Road Plaza in Baltimore County, Maryland. Officers discovered her body around 4 a.m. March 2nd, 96. The day held significance for the LeCornu family. It was Jody's parents' wedding anniversary. Okay, so that's a 1/365th chance. An investigation concluded that the 23-year-old Towson University senior was shot execution-style with a .38 caliber weapon. The bullet entered her back and shattered her spine as she sat inside her car at the Drumcastle Shopping Center alongside York Road. She was able to drive out onto York Road and then into the York Road Plaza parking lot across the street. Her suspected killer followed her into the second parking lot and took something from her car as she died before fleeing the scene. The unknown shooter then drove southbound on York Road in a white BMW, which has been caught on surveillance footage, but the video was too grainy to get a license plate number. Witnesses have described Jody's killer as being in his late 20s to early 30s, between 5'10 and 6'1", and weighing around 200 pounds. He was wearing a camouflage jacket. The killer has never been identified by police, despite having a considerable amount of evidence in the case. Not only are there multiple eyewitnesses who have described the killer and his vehicle, but there is an assortment of forensic evidence, fingerprint, surveillance footage, and viable suspects. Jody's family believes that the case went cold so quickly due to mishandling by the Baltimore County Police Department, and even requested assistance from the Baltimore City Police, but the offer from that department to help with the investigation was declined. And how many cops' egos have cost cases from being solved? Because unfortunately, we do see this more than rarely. On the night of February 29th, Jody argued with her boyfriend, and he asked her not to come home that night, assuming she would go stay with her parents while they cooled off. Jody left for her shift as a receptionist for the Eastern Savings Bank, and her boyfriend went to work as well. At the end of the day, Jody left work and met friends at a bar she frequented called the Mount Washington Tavern. Witnesses placed her there until closing time, 2 a.m. As the bar was emptying, the manager asked Jody if she would give one of his employees a ride home due to the weather. It had begun to snow outside. She drove the employee home, dropped them off, and then went to an ATM to withdraw cash. She stopped to buy a six-pack of beer at a liquor store before driving to the parking lot of what is now the Drum Castle Government Center, but was then called the Caldor. It was now around 3 a.m. The location was just around the corner from her home and 3 miles from the tavern she had left an hour earlier. It is unclear why Jody stopped there, but she could have merely been collecting herself while she decided what to do next. She made a couple of phone calls while there. One was to the Mount Washington Tavern to speak to the manager, but he was too busy to talk. A second call was to the boyfriend of an old roommate of hers. It is unclear what was discussed during these calls, but some speculate that she was seeking drugs. Jody was currently clean, but had a history of drug abuse she had struggled to overcome. The anxiety she often experienced, coupled with the earlier fight with her boyfriend, might have been enough to drive her back to her old ways. As Jody sat there in her car, a white BMW pulled closer to her white Honda Civic and approached her car. She rolled down the window and spoke to him, but it is not known if she knew him. They spoke for a moment and he returned to his car. But moments later, at 3:40 a.m., the man returned and fired a .38 caliber handgun through the back left passenger window of her car. The bullet struck Jody in the back and severed her spine. Witnesses at the giant supermarket on the opposite side of York Road and a driver making a delivery to the Boston market heard the gunshot. They looked out to see Jody attempting to drive into the giant supermarket parking lot across a 5-lane highway. Her car circled and slowed to a halt as it hit a curb between the Boston Market and the Firestone Tire and Service Center on their side of the street. The witnesses also noted the white BMW that was following her. The driver of the second car parked and waited until Jody had slumped over her steering wheel, motionless. He then got out of his car and reached inside to push Jody back toward the seat. He seemed to be in no big rush as he leaned across her, put the car in park, took something, which seems to have been her purse and cell phone. He returned to his car, pulled out of the lot, turning south on York Road and then proceeding east on Walker Avenue before witnesses lost sight of him. Witnesses immediately phoned the police, but it was too late to save Jody. And we'll continue with this examination and whether or not this was just a routine robbery. And is it significant that the guy waited until she slumped over? If this guy's a cold-blooded killer, is there and he knows there might be witnesses, why would he just wait there like that? That's a little weird, too. In the 2.5 decades that have passed since Jody's death, her family has kept their fight to bring her killer to justice. Her father kept a file of information gathered on the case until his death from cancer in 2007. Her twin sister, Jenny, continues to pursue all information she can gather, despite what the family describes as a lack of cooperation from detectives on the case. They have complained that emerging technologies and investigative techniques not previously available could now be employed in Jody's case and have not been. In addition to hiring a private investigator to look into the matter, the family has been forced to use the Freedom of Information Act to request the investigation records in Jody's case. Their specific request to release autopsy results has been denied. They have been told that those records could be withheld indefinitely since the case is still an open and active investigation. How active is it really, though? In January 2020, the family of Jody posted 3 new billboards in the Baltimore area seeking information about the case. They are offering a $100,000 reward. Okay. So, and there's also a very poignant, very touching photo here from Justice for Jody on Facebook. I believe the hardest part of healing after you've lost someone you love is to recover the you that went away with them. One more article here, People magazine by Chris Harris. This one's a little older. It was updated August 13th, 2016 with some interesting info here. What happened to Jody LeCornu? Investigators renew efforts to solve the mysterious 96 murder of blonde twin. Someone who knows something needs to come forward, says Jenny Carrieri, who thinks someone knows more about her twin sister's murder than they're letting on. For 20 years, a single burning question has haunted Jenny Carreri's days and nights. Who killed her twin sister, Joanne Jody LeCornu, on a snowy Maryland morning back in '96, and why did they do it? And for 20 years, Carreri's desperate quest for the truth, no matter how horrific it may be, has done little more than leaving her feeling confused and utterly vexed. It has been so frustrating, Carreri confides to People during an interview about her sister's cold case. Since her murder, there have been so many stories and so many theories. I can't sleep some nights because it hurts so much knowing that the person who took her from us is still walking around. Detectives for the Baltimore County Police Department's homicide unit continue to investigate the case and are hoping to provide the grieving sister with some solace soon. This spring, the department renewed its efforts to bring Joanne's killer to justice. They have released never-before-seen crime scene photos they hope will inspire someone who knows something to come forward. So it took them 10 years to do that. It's kind of weird. One picture shows how the bullet broke Jody's car window, went through the driver's seat, and into her back. LeCornu, who was a Towson University student at the time of her death, was discovered dead in her white Honda Civic, which was parked not far from her home in Mount Washington section of Baltimore. Police can't say with absolute certainty that LeCornu knew her killer, who they believe approached her car and spoke with her for a bit before firing a single shot into her back. LeCornu tried to escape her killer by driving across the street to the parking lot where her body would be found hours later, according to investigators. But witnesses told detectives they saw an African-American man follow her across the street. He reached in through the driver's side window, which was already rolled down, and shut the car off before taking something from the vehicle. The suspect then left the area in a white BMW, police tell People. They have had a couple of suspects over the years, but never arrested anyone, says Carreri, sighing in frustration. One of the scenarios they were floating for a while was that she was buying drugs, but there were no drugs in her system. LeCornu had completed a cocaine treatment program as a teen, Carreri admits. But as an adult, her twin sister was fully committed to living a sober life, Carreri says. Another theory suggests LeCornu's death resulted from an attempted robbery gone bad. Carreri isn't so sure. The police claim she was told by her boyfriend not to come home, and so that's why she was sitting in her car when she was shot, Carreri explains. She was killed on my parents' wedding anniversary. My sister's death was always hard on my father, who passed away without ever knowing the truth about her murder. While police have been unable to find a match for the two sets of fingerprints they lifted from LeCornu's car, Carreri says she's optimistic revisiting the cold case will drum up new tips for investigators. Someone who knows something needs to come forward, Carreri tells People. There's a $32,000 reward. There's got to be something or some people who know something. Someone knows more than they're letting on. Detective Carol Bollinger, a 30-year police veteran who joined the cold case unit more than 10 years ago and has been the lead on the LeCornu case, tells People he thinks someone holds the key to solving this decades-old mystery. Relationships and associations change over the years, Bollinger begins. Maybe someone with pertinent information isn't as close to the individual who committed the murder, and now, after 20 years, they'll be willing to share what they've been keeping to themselves. That would be something we could work with. Bollinger tells People investigators have re-entered the fingerprints they recovered from LeCornu's car into the nation's criminal database. Hopefully they'll get a hit after all these years. He has also been conducting fresh interviews with several persons of interest who've been connected to the case. He's also talking to LeCornu's friends and ex-boyfriends again. We're also trying to develop DNA off of some of the items we've collected from the scene where previously we couldn't, says Bollinger. We are going over video taken at the time using new technologies. Our video examiners are now able to take apart a video and retract an image from it where you couldn't do that 20 years ago. We're just going back to see if we can shake the tree and get any apples to fall. LeCornu's murder also torments Bollinger, who said he'd like to close the case file before his eventual retirement. It's a difficult place to be sometimes, Bollinger acknowledges. I've been talking to her family pretty regularly since she was killed, and I'm looking for any clue that could provide her sister and mother with closure. Investigators ask that anyone with any information on LeCornu's murder call the Metro Crime Stoppers tip line at 866-7-LOCK-UP. It's hard feeling this hopeless and frustrated with the progress being made on our case, says Carreri, who recently hired a PI to look into her sister's homicide. I really don't want to die without knowing what happened to her. So yeah, a lot of different theories here, and again, we cannot ignore FBI statistics. Most women who are met with foul play do so at the hands of someone known to them, usually the significant other, either boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, or a male known to them. All right, so let's go to the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. Always some good discussion going on there. 3 years ago, The News is Real posted this right up here. The 96 unsolved murder of Jody LeCornu. After 22 years, prosecutors will not release the autopsy to the family. Jody was shot in the back in a Baltimore County parking lot at 96. Jody was in her car, Baltimore County parking lot, 3 a.m. on the morning of March 3rd, 96. Family members say they do not know why Jody was there, only that she had been drinking at an area bar until 2 a.m. and then left. You know, the call back to the manager seems to be a little suspicious. Was she just telling him that she did drop off that employee, but the manager was too busy to take the call after closing? Is there something going on at the bar? Did somebody follow her from the bar? I mean, it's kind of hard to dismiss the bar completely because, again, a lot of females met with foul play. They are spotted by somebody, if it is whether known to them previously or not. They become known to them. So it's hard to rule the bar out of the equation completely, especially with these relatively unusual situations. But witnesses saw a male driving a white BMW approach Jody, talked to her briefly, then moved to the back of the car, fired one shot. Jody was struck in the back, was somehow able to drive across the street to a 24-hour grocery store where her car came to a stop. The shooter casually drove behind her, parked his car, got out, reached over the dash, removed something from her car, then again casually walked back to his car and drove away. Despite witnesses, fingerprints, and the fact that he was driving such a conspicuous car, police have not made an arrest. What makes this case even more important is that it illustrates how families have few rights to information when a case remains unsolved. The family wanted to hire its own investigator, but the police department refused to turn over records. And again, I know I keep harping on CIs, confidential informants, but in a lot of these tricky cases that remain unsolved, or it looks like there might be some possible law enforcement corruption, or at least malfeasance, or incompetence that wants to be kept on the down low, sometimes there's a CI involved. I mean, that's just the way it is. A lot of these coincidence theorists like to deny any notion of possible CI involvement, but in a lot of these cases that are getting solved that there was CI involvement in, these were problematic throughout the investigation. So, a few posts here. That kind of response really makes it sound like it was a cop who did it. And other responses, yeah, they were a good shot, made little commotion, and calmly remembered to pull something out of the car. Sounds like they have some kind of training. Another response here. Alternatively, he took a blind shot through a window and got lucky that it made contact, made a ruckus, hence the witnesses who saw him, realized nobody was going to help her, so he grabbed the purse he was trying to steal initially. I don't know. To me, it doesn't sound like someone with training would do that, let alone law enforcement. Also, they didn't release the case file because it's an open investigation, so if it lands in the wrong hands, it could make details public they don't want out there. And again, I talk about this in cold cases all the time. Now, if the case is actually going to be solved, then okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. But if the case is never going to be solved, what are they doing here? At a certain point, shouldn't they release the file? And another response here, touching upon this, they say this in every case where they won't release the documents, whether it's to families, reporters, or other interested people. It's been 22 years. How much of an investigation do you think is taking place? There is likely little to no activity, leaning towards not at all, on the file at this point. Another post here. Every time there's a case like this where it seems so easy to solve, yet police are withholding info, most people are quick to assume police corruption, which seems unfair. Or is it really unfair? Because now, in 2022, after all of this has been made public regarding police corruption, regarding coerced confessions and wrongful convictions, I mean, in the past, there were a lot of authority-worshipping cultists who simply thought that it was just extremely rare for police to make mistakes, and very close to 100% of people in prison were actually guilty. Now, after all of these cases that were found out about, the Innocence Project, all these cases where people find out there was some kind of law enforcement corruption or malfeasance that, of course, was denied early on. And these are just the cases that we know about. So any of the successful conspiracies, cover-ups, and law enforcement corruption, we would never even know about them. You know, what else is interesting? regarding jurisdictions. So the shooting was in Baltimore City, but then across the road is the jurisdiction of Baltimore County. Huh. Some more posts here. So he likely reached in to take her purse since that was not found, possibly to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Who did she call? Did she manage to speak to them? If so, what did she say? And so, as far as I know from all these write-ups here, and the Justice for Jody website, it says that the content of the call to the roommate's ex is not known. So apparently they did speak. The content is not known. So is this something the police just refused to release for some reason? But other posts here. Unless it was a stolen car, a BMW in the 80s was no small thing. I wouldn't think he'd be robbing her for simply a purse. And the response here, it was in 1996, not as uncommon as the 80s, still should be a workable angle. I mean, even if there's, let's say, 100 or even 200 or even 300 white BMWs in that area, I mean, meticulous police work could go through all of them to see if their whereabouts were accounted for, possibly narrow it down to a dozen or two, and then if there's a few officers working that's definitely an angle that can be worked. Another post here regarding the drug angle. There was definitely dealing going on at the bar where she drank until leaving to the parking lot. She also made a phone call to the same bar after leaving, but before arriving at the parking lot. So there's always been speculation that drugs were involved. Here's the other thing, though. Even if she was trying to score drugs, that doesn't mean that an unrelated criminal wouldn't rob her, especially in that area, which supposedly is not a safe area. So again, let's not fall for these false dichotomy logical fallacies here. Another response, thanks for the reply, that makes a lot more sense. So if she had the drugs in her car at the parking lot, the guy who pulled up could have tried to get them from her without paying. She told him to bug her off, so he's gone and shot her, and then followed her to retrieve the drugs and her purse. And the response here, there are definitely people I know, including a private detective, who think that scenario is the most likely. And another response here, or alternatively, maybe the shooter was a dealer and sold her drugs, then stole them back. Call to the bar after close could have been to the bartender or dealer. Yeah, I mean, if this is an unusual situation, that could be a possibility. I mean, low-level criminals sometimes do that. I mean, is that a go-to for certain criminals? Sell the drugs, steal them back. That way you got the money and the drugs. Another post here mentions that the father was an assistant prosecutor in a nearby county. Part of me wonders if killing her may be linked to one of her dad's cases. Another post here. Am I right in thinking that around that time, Baltimore was definitely not a good place to deal with the police? And the Baltimore area, were they the highest ranked in corruption and had the lowest amount of clearances and homicides on certain years? I believe I read that was Baltimore. I'm not sure, though. I'm not pointing fingers here, but I'd say it's pretty suspect how cagey the cops are being with all this info. Surely in the last 23 years, this guy would have been printed at some point for something. People who shoot other people in the back and vanish aren't exactly known for living lives of good work and righteousness. Another response here, yes, we've seen dozens of cases of police corruption, and the city police department is currently under federal consent decree. This case happened in the county, which means it's under a different department, but law enforcement in Maryland is very tight-knit. Another post here, take a basic analytical approach. Was there another person in the parking lot? Possibly, but probably not. The more people involved, the more people talk. Was this a hitman? Really unlikely. A hitman wouldn't get out of a car, stop to have a conversation, hand over evidence, and touch the car, taking it back. And did the witnesses state whether or not he was wearing gloves? A drug dealer would do all these things, though. Law enforcement agencies have to tread a fine line. They can't release information if the case isn't closed. You probably won't find any magic clue in the report. It's been a long time, and the detectives don't want to upset you or your family. In a way, giving false hope can seem like an easier solution than admitting that there's not any fancy new developments or CSI type of evidence that Hollywood likes to glamorize with. The truth isn't in the autopsy or police report. It would contain some very basic rundown of facts, evidence, some interview transcripts, facts and names already known, cause of death and location photos, etc. The video in the 90s would be black and white, grainy and all, and enhancement would make it grainier. This person doesn't sound like they know what they're talking about. There's all different types of enhancements, including AI enhancements, which would get rid of the grain. Fingerprints are rarely used as evidence because of the unreliability and smudge factor. Rarely used. Fingerprints are not rarely used. They're pretty often used as evidence. There's a pretty common saying in law enforcement, the mystery is there is no mystery. The investigators would very likely have looked at this as a drug deal gone bad, a late night meeting in a parking lot, a victim with a history of prior substance abuse, a late night at the bar, a supposed handoff take-back, a single shot delivered from a fleeing direction, a recovery, and an absolutely tragic death. This wasn't a hitman because no one stood to gain from the murder. Again, unless this person is ignorant of a potential case with the father, if he was indeed an assistant prosecutor. I don't know if that's been verified. A drug dealer would stand to lose profit and, worse, his reputation if word got out that he lost a batch to a customer. People who rip off drug dealers tend to wind up dead. If the detectives had analyzed her phone records for the night, they probably would have gotten a pretty good idea of who the dealer was. But even if they didn't, there's no reliable witness, no video evidence, no discernible fingerprints, no DNA, no license plate, no one who witnessed the trigger being pulled. Without a confession from the killer, no DA would touch this case. I know this isn't what people want to hear. If it's any consolation, the killer is probably not free, or he's probably not alive. Drug dealers don't have a long life expectancy. It really just looks like a bad drug deal. It's very possible the perpetrator is in prison for a different crime or dead, but theoretically it's also possible they're not. More posts here. I know nothing about investigative procedure, but shouldn't a white BMW be easy to find on the MVA's databases? Can't be that many out there. Response, I completely agree, and I've often wondered about that. Cops have full access to motor vehicle databases. Another response here, it sounds like she met the guy to buy drugs or something, not judging. Then the guy said, not here, meet me over there for the exchange. She possibly had the money out when he first went to the window, and then the killer decided that he was going to shoot and rob her. This is also why she kept her window down after they first spoke at 3 a.m. When she drove off after being shot, he followed her to get the money and didn't want to run over and draw more attention to himself. Her fear of being shot, because probably she's bought drugs or whatever from people in sketchy situations before. It seems like she kept this part of her life a secret. A lot of unknown variables here, but there were a lot of witnesses. So let's go to Jenny Carreri's own Twitter. So she posted this March 3rd, 2022. It's odd to me that one of the witnesses came to me several years ago and said he was the one who called 911 from the local gas station because of a gunshot. The BCPD report a 911 call with multiple gunshots coming from the giant grocery store. That doesn't add up. So she also posted this. There are 6 witnesses. I had one reach out to me several years ago after he saw my story with Kate Snow. First thing he said to me is he doesn't trust the police. He said he's been trying to reach out to them over the years and the police ignore him. Wow. So the police are ignoring one of the witnesses who apparently is trying to give him all the information he has. That's weird. Apparently there's 4 videos as well. Jenny also posted this. For them to tell me they can't enhance the 4 videos is hard to believe. So they told it. What? The Boy Scouts could have solved her case day 1. There's so much evidence, but sadly corruption. So there's 4 videos, and Jenny Carreri is stating here, March 3rd, 2022, that the police told her that they can't enhance the 4 videos that they do have. That's weird. Another post by Jenny here. Well, they didn't put out a lot of details about the case till 20 years later. like the picture of the suspect's car, crime scene photos, etc., only after I filed suit for the records and pushed them to do so. Why would they not have done that from the beginning? Or show me the records? Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a heartbreaking case for a bunch of different reasons here. What are the police protecting? Is this really some kind of CI? Is it a police officer? Do they know it's a police officer? Do they not want this solved for whatever reason? So this is a truly baffling case here because by all accounts, it should have been solved, right? I mean, there's some kind of forensic evidence in the vehicle. I mean, the entire crime is captured on 3 to 4 surveillance cameras. So there's 3 or 4 videos of the entire crime. I mean, maybe 4 videos, maybe 3 of them show the entire crime. And about 6 witnesses in the entire area. So how's this thing not solved? I mean, even if the video is very grainy, again, obviously there can be AI enhancement. It's quite good. If you go on YouTube and just look up 4K AI enhanced videos, I mean, there's some crappy videos from over 100 years ago that are now look like they were shot yesterday. I mean, it's really amazing how far technology has advanced. But that aside, just if this is on video, just the mannerisms of the individual, of the killer, just the way he walked from the cars. Apparently, also the witnesses said he was very nonchalant, casual walking after just murdering somebody. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of evidence here. Now, regarding the boyfriend, so they did have a fight. He told her not to go there to sleep. They also have another roommate, a female roommate. So, okay, Jenny Carreri herself on the Lorden Arts Brain Scratch podcast. She had an interview back in 2017 and on that channel. And she said that the boyfriend was never considered a suspect and that he remained close with the family afterwards. She does not feel he had anything to do with her death. So that's her feeling. And normally family members might not be the best for that, but this is her twin, so we do have to actually respect that. I know a lot of people do not believe that twins have a closer connection, but again, science is catching up to quantum physics and everything. All of these spiritual concepts that were once thought to be like new age occult nonsense, now science is finally catching up. Science is always a little slow. It's always slow when compared to ancient wisdom. So if twins really do have a closer connection, she might be able to use her intuition there to discern. However, apparently the guy's alibi was he was at home sleeping. Now, if the female roommate verified that, okay, that's a pretty decent alibi, unless one wants to postulate that the female roommate was also involved. Now, again, I am not claiming anyone is guilty or innocent. I am not claiming any theory is true or untrue. But in terms of 100% solid alibis, I mean, yeah, this was 96, but obviously there's still security footage out and about everywhere. So can his movements be traced? And also the female roommate? Because again, just basic FBI statistics, when someone is met with foul play, that is at the hands of someone known to them. Now, I do agree that if these people have been properly vetted and Jenny knows all these people and other people know them, there's certainly a vibe they can pick up. They can get a good idea of things if they freely admitted that there was an argument, or were they forced into admitting that because Jody had mentioned that to somebody before she went to work. I mean, I actually don't know the timeline. Maybe Jenny Carreri can clear that up. But did the boyfriend and the roommate admit everything, or were they forced to? If they weren't forced to, if Jody hadn't mentioned this, all this information came before. I mean, how likely is it that a guilty party would admit that they had a fight with the deceased? I mean, I don't know. I would think that would be a lot less likely. Again, it depends on the individual, of course, and then we're dealing with unknown variables, so it's really impossible to say definitively or ascribe likelihoods without knowing these variables. I'm assuming Jenny Carreri would know some of these variables, so she can certainly clear that up. But it's hard to write off the bar. And other people state that drug dealing did go on at that bar. So there could be something there. And then, of course, the police response is very difficult to discern because it could be simple old incompetence, or it could be they're protecting a CI if they're going after some big time drug dealers, or is it somehow connected to their father being an assistant prosecutor? Someone wanted some kind of vengeance. I mean, I don't know. That happens. It happens. It might not happen often, but it happens. What is the deal here? These are all the different theories that are floated. And of course, it seems like most people do favor a drug deal gone bad, or just some kind of robbery. Now, if the individual knew that there were security cameras there, would they have done this? I mean, that's kind of hard. I mean, that's an angle that really needs to be explored as well, because if the person was local, would they know that there were security cameras? See, in the 90s, nobody really paid attention to security cameras, though. So, because a lot of places did not have them still. Of course, they have become more popular in the late 90s. They were just starting to be used more and more frequently at different businesses. But I'm not sure how many people gave thought to that. I don't know. If it was a professional hired hitman, would they know? I mean, would they take the chance to do that? That you would think if they really were a professional, they would have scouted the area maybe. I mean, so again, just going through all of these theories, it's hard to shake some kind of bar involvement, particularly because she was asked to give someone a ride from the bar because of the bad weather. And supposedly she didn't even like driving in the bad weather, in the snowy weather. So yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here, and the police response is definitely shady. It's not necessarily. I mean, I don't think there's enough information here to definitively state that they're protecting a CI or a corrupt cop. It could just be other issues. They don't want to deal with it. I mean, we do see this in other cases as well, where by all known accounts, the police were not involved. They just didn't want to shed light on their own incompetence. And it's that simple. Is it that simple here? I don't know. This is Mindshock, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Other further thoughts from Jenny Carreri in the interview with Lord and Art's Brain Scratch podcast here. She said that she does not believe that the killer was intentionally trying to kill her. These are just her feelings. She also does not believe that her sister would have taken drugs and run or try to screw somebody over because she would be too afraid to do that. And this is her gut instinct about her own sister, twin sister. So and yeah, so we have to take that seriously because I'm assuming nobody in the world knew Jody better than Jenny. So we have to take her word seriously here. So what situation does that leave? Another scenario Jenny brings up here is if the individual, drug dealer or not, if he wanted to assault her or rape her or whatever, have some kind of payment alternative to cash for the drugs, if the drug was involved in the first place. Maybe this guy's not a drug dealer. He's cruising and he wants professional company or whatever those guys call that, and she refuses, and that makes him angry. So he's not specifically trying to murder her per se. If this guy's like an unhinged loony, he might just want to shoot at her, not for the specific goal of actually killing her. But then after he already did that, is, if he's some kind of low life criminal, maybe he thinks, oh, I guess I might as well take her purse or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to dismiss Jenny's theories here, just because, of course, she would have the best knowledge of Jody and how she would think and behave in different situations. Another thing John Lorden brings up in this interview is actually pretty interesting. It does seem to back up Jenny's feelings here, because he brought up visibility. So it's snowing, the car's running, so it's possible that the windows are foggy, and then there's snow, a certain amount of snow. If the visibility is that poor, is it possible this is just an angry, low-level criminal who was looking to scare her because she refused his advances. And he was just shooting at the car in the general direction, more or less. It wasn't a professional hitman executing a kill shot, specifically trying to kill with one shot. But the other thing that is interesting, Jenny did bring up that there supposedly there was a report mentioning that there were multiple gunshots coming from the grocery store. Now, I would think, just based on the video and other witnesses, if this really was some kind of gang fight and she got caught in the middle, there would be way more information. So that just might be some kind of clerical error or whatnot. But of course, it should be seriously investigated like anything. But going back here, just between the visibility and Jenny Carreri's feelings here about her twin sister and her gut feelings that this guy wasn't intentionally trying to murder her, and that Jody wouldn't try to scam somebody for drugs and drive away or whatever. She'd just be too scared to do that. And these are all very valid scenarios. And again, her going back to her gut instinct that maybe there was this, not necessarily an attempted rape, but some kind of proposition, possibly drug-related, possibly not. I mean, this is, 3 to 4 a.m. I mean, there's a lot of shady individuals that prowl the streets at that time. And if this was just some kind of angry, low-level criminal, this could have theoretically just been some kind of weird, bizarre accident, not an intentional, premeditated murder. And just stacking everything up, the wrench here is, of course, the police response. I mean, and that's a really, really big wrench that gets thrown here. Either way, just based on the amount of evidence that's available, I mean, this case really does need to go into the pile of cases that really are solvable and should be solved. Again, all the Mindshock listeners out there, feel free to chime in with your thoughts, theories, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind in the comment section. If you enjoy Mindshock, find it interesting, want to help support Mindshock, you can donate to our PayPal. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Like and share the podcast. Keep awareness up, not just in this case, but in other cold cases, missing persons cases, and wrongful convictions. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic logical analysis co-podcast requests. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.